Hi, America. My name's Dave. I've known these guys for over a decade at this point, and help me. They're holding me hostage. Please.
Hi, America. I'm Will. I'm holding everyone hostage right now.
Hello, America. I'm Tino. I stumbled into this because of a class project, and now I can't get out of it.
Hello, America. I'm Steve. That's all I gotta say.
So, how do we want to introduce the concept of the game room? 'Cause
I guess I could introduce it.
I mean, this was your idea, Will, so...
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. So, we all went to college together, specifically Temple University. And while we were there, there's a building called the Student Activity Center, which was connected to like a place that had like pool tables, air hockey, a few arcade games. And that's where I met all of these lovely, wonderful nerds who I'm now holding hostage. And basically, that's where we would go whenever we didn't have class to just play all kinds of games, video games, card games, etc.
and sometimes when we did have class.
Yes, occasionally we would skip class to go, and by that I mean all the time. But
There is something I do want to bring up just to be a pedantic. It's now
Sure,
called
sure.
the Howard Giddis Student Center because Temple. But
I mean, that's,
Wasn't it always called that?
no, because the name change occurred the year you came.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But basically, we all met in this room, and when we weren't playing games, we would just talk about random stuff. Which several months ago, back actually when the pandemic started, I proposed the idea that we kind of revive the game room in spirit by doing a podcast, and it's now November, so obviously we're on top of this in terms of getting the ball rolling.
In your defense, the pandemic has not ended. It is November 2020. We are still in the middle of the people for when future civilizations comb through the wreckage of things and find them.
Yes, we will inflict ourselves on the future and the aliens and anyone who happens to stumble across us in the present day.
Dear people of the future and or aliens, I am so sorry.
And yes, we're sorry about that. And that. Not about that, though. You.
Wow. Wow.
Hey,
Dave's
hey,
getting
I
into it.
disagree.
Hang on. Tino, you're going to have to bleep some things. This is a family-friendly podcast.
For how long, Will? For how long?
For the next 27 seconds.
Oh, joy.
So I also kind of wanted to, as a fun little way of giving people an idea of what the game room was to us, I figured we could all just introduce a fun little story of the game room or something that really meant something to us. And to get started, my first year at Temple, I think I had been there for a few months. I hadn't really met anyone outside of my classes, and I was feeling like real isolated. It was weird because I was on a campus of like 30,000 students. And one day I got a text message from someone I went to high school with who also went to Temple and said, hey, meet me in the Student Activity Center. We'll grab dinner. And right as I got there with my dinner, he was heading out. He's like, oh, sorry, I got other plans. And I was like, oh, crap. So I kind of just sat there eating my dinner, and that's the day that Dave and a bunch of our other friends from the game room kind of just noticed me sitting there and called me over to join them. And I was like, all right, sounds like a fun time. And that's when I met everyone, except for Tino, who came a year later.
I can contribute to that backstory bit because that's pretty much how I found the game room, too. Took me a bit longer than that. I think I was about 90% through my first term at Temple. The only people I tried to bond with were people in my dorm room who shared none of my interests. I was this crazy frickin' weeaboo nerd who didn't really know anybody, and the isolation was getting to me, and I was not getting along with my roommate. And at some point, I heard there was an anime club, didn't know where it was, and then I wander into this game room that's by what was effectively an arcade in Temple University. And that's where I found, hey, these are groups of people talking about video games and other crap that I'm into, and I found a group of people, and it was nice. And remembering that experience, Will, when we saw you, that's part of why I was glad I called you over.
Well, I guess that puts me next on it. The story of how I ended up in the game room is slightly more complicated because I didn't show up in the group the same way that I guess the rest of you did. I I made a friend during orientation, which was, for me, it was August of like 2008, and she was all into anime, and I only kind of had a little bit of a cursory understanding of anime from stuff that had kind of rubbed off on me from some of my high school friends. But when my freshman year started, I was also really into like 3D animation and that kind of thing. And this was 2008, so there was no real-time ray tracing, any of that. You needed a render farm, and I was actually trying to figure out how to put together a render farm. And she was like, "Well, I don't know anything about that, but there are some really nerdy people that you might be able to find at the at the game room in the student activity center." So that's how I first found out that there was such a place as the game room. And I went in there once or twice, but I didn't actually run into the rest of these guys. The way that I was introduced to Will, Steve, and Dave was by way of one of the gen eds that I had to take my freshman year. I had to take a gen ed, so I picked one about subcultures, because I was like, okay, that sounds like it would be interesting. And I knew that my one friend at Temple that I had so far was an anime fan. I knew that some of my friends in high school had been anime fans. So I was like, okay, let me study this, because, you know, I'll have a couple people that I can talk to. And so I sought out the Temple Anime Club and figured out when they were meeting. And so I went to my very first meeting, and it was like maybe a quarter of the way through the semester. First person I saw was Flora, actually. And I asked her, "Hey, do you mind if I film your club?" And she was like, "I have no idea what the heck you're doing, but okay, fine." So I'm sitting there filming. Steve was there. So I guess Steve was technically the first person I met. And then as they were getting ready to watch, I think it was Higurashi, Hellgirl, and what was the other one? Sorcerer Hunters.
Yeah.
Sorcerer
I got a
Hunters.
thing about.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up. I got a thing to discuss after Steve.
Okay. Let me just quickly finish my story. As they're getting ready to watch that, a whole group of people walk in. All of them are holding Nerf revolvers, and I'm like, okay, I have to get a shot of these weirdos. And the weirdos were Will, Dave, and I think Jake. So that was how I became introduced to the rest of these guys. And through the course of studying them as an anthropological experiment, I also became friends with them, and also kind of became the unofficial videographer of the Temple University Anime Club from then until the time I graduated.
Yeah, so I want to go back real quick. That game that you were observing was Assassin, and I was in that too. Jake stabbed me in the back during one of
Literally?
our anime clubs. Yeah, he stabbed me with I think he had a pen, something like
Yeah,
that.
a pen that looks like a syringe.
Yeah, it was a pen that looked like a syringe. He stabbed me with it.
Just to activate, for our viewers out there who are afraid of needles, just to activate every single fear you have. This was at a time where there were pens that looked like syringes, complete with little red liquid in them.
Yes.
You say that like that's no longer the case. I'm sure any of us could find it.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure.
still out there. But
so
just
what
the
happened
idea that much like a certain podcaster, one Patrick Boivin of the Castle Super Beast, the idea that you could be approached in the street and stabbed with a needle of an unknown substance, that fear is still out there. They're coming for you, Pat!
Steve,
Yes.
did you want to continue?
No. I want to just jump into my explanation as to how I came to the game room. So my story is kind of a meandering one. Around year two, the start of year two, I just finished my first year, and I was really unhappy with the way that I was experiencing college. I went to class and I came home. I played World of Warcraft a lot, and I wouldn't really interact with anybody except for online. So in order to combat that, I said, okay, I'll join a club. And I was taking Japanese at the time. Temple University had Japanese classes from Elements, which was low level 1, all the way up to Advanced. It was a 3-year thing, and I did all 3 years eventually up to graduation. But in meeting some people in that class, I came across a club called Nippon Association, and they did a lot of Japanese related events, showing movies, going out to karaoke, Japanese restaurants, and a couple different culture events where they would explain things in like a lecture setting. So it was a variety of things. And they wanted to do a collaboration for a thing called Japan Fest. It was kind of like a week-long thing, and we had a couple different events related to it, and we sought to collaborate with Anime Club. And Anime Club was just about to do their New York trip, which is something that they do twice a year. I don't know if they still do it, but back when I was in it, we did it twice a year. And that was kind of how I got into that club, because I first met with Flora, who is actually my wife now. Yeah, well, we can talk about that later, but yeah.
For reference to the listeners at home, we're talking about over a decade ago.
Yeah, this was 2008. That was when I first joined Anime Club, and so anyway, we did the New York trip, and it was fun. So I joined Anime Club. Now, some of the members there were also members of the game room, so they said, "Hey, you should come here, and we'll hang out, we'll play video games and talk about nerdy shit." So I said, "Okay, sure." So that was kind of how I weaseled into the game room and made a lot of friends there. I made friends with Dave, Will, and Tino. Tino kind of came later, as he explained. But yeah, that was kind of how my story came to being a part of the game room. And I stayed there until I graduated. Basically 3 full years I hung out there all the time.
Yeah, and you kept coming back to the New York trips like a couple years after you'd graduated.
Oh yeah,
So-
he yelled at me for not leading the trip correctly when Dave was the one leading it that one year, and that was glorious because that's on film.
Well, that's
Yeah,
because you were the leader.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
I specifically said I'm not.
You were
leading
the
trip.
president of Anime Club. The only reason you trusted me is because I knew the grid system of Manhattan.
Yes, and when I was
and that was
leaving,
your mistake.
and when I was leaving the video game store, I said to everyone, "Do not follow me. I'm going across the street to go get chopsticks, and that's it." And then the next thing I know, I cross the street and I hear a car blaring its horn, and there's like 7 of these like dumb little freshmen in the middle of the street, and I'm like, "What did I say inside?"
And
Well,
I think the explanation that we all came up with was that his underlings were all following him because he hadn't spawned enough overlords to keep them in line.
I mean, that's absolutely true. The other part of that, by the way, just as a point of reference for how long we've known each other, when I first met Steve, I saved him in my contacts as Nippon Steve because he was part of Nippon Association. That was back in very early 2008. It is almost the end of 2020, and Steve's contact in my phone is still Nippon Steve.
Is that not the glorious thing of transferring legacy
Yes.
information and media?
Exactly how this is going to go.
Oh man, that's pretty wild. Well, although I gotta say that it didn't matter who the leader was, because around that time Google Maps was basically very reliable. So
Yeah.
it didn't matter if Dave knew the grid system. Do you know how to turn left? Do you know how to turn right? Like, it's
No!
really
No.
easy.
Our
Do
club
you know
did
how
not,
to read
Steve.
a map?
You forget,
Yes,
they did
yeah.
not know how to do that stuff.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they needed to know. I said that you needed to know.
No, I didn't need to know because I wasn't leading.
So
Whatever, man.
I promised so I made a promise to talk about this after Steve was done, but Tino, I have to horrify you into a coma.
Oh, God.
Oh, again?
Yes. So you remember Higurashi quite distinctly.
Oh,
It
boy.
scared
Oh, boy.
the shit out of you.
Listen,
Recent-
that's a fantastic show, okay?
So the guy who created Higurashi created a sequel of sorts called Umineko.
Oh, no.
I feel like I've heard that.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the deets, but I'm going to say is that it got bigger than Higurashi. It's still kind of horror themed, but there's also this weird meta combat thing. I'm not going to bother getting to it. The point,
about
though, is that
magic.
Umineko had some really solid connections back to Higurashi. Recently,
Okay.
and Umineko's now nearly a decade old, so it's been around. They recently announced a remake of Higurashi that just started.
Yeah, isn't it
Oh.
out now?
Yes, and here's the thing, though. It started
Hey,
up...
because we'd all like to relive that horror.
Isn't it bad?
Oh,
though?
you don't know the half of the shit. Because here's the thing. It starts off looking like a remake, and then events start being different.
So
And
it's
all
like
of a
the
sudden-
Evangelion rebuild movies.
No,
Or-
not even.
or
Because
FF7 or Star Trek or
no, it's
Star
actually
Wars.
spoilers for FF7 remake is a bit closer to that because edit this part out. Or bleep me out.
Spoiler alert!
Oh,
It's been out for
Jesus.
most of the year.
So it turns out this is not a remake; it's a straight sequel. And there are a lot of
that's
theories
weird.
going around because what is effectively the main villain of Umineko is something that is drawn from one of the characters of Higurashi, and they're speculating this is an origin story for that character.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
So you thought you were getting a remake, but Higurashi lives a decade later, motherfucker!
Oh god. Oh, Jesus. All right. So
I'll
that-
have to look into that.
That being said,
It's the
So-
Groundhog Day from hell that never ended.
I mean, you're not wrong.
In more ways than you can even realize.
So
And that's what's terrifying.
So that being said, and based on everything that I told Steve and what I hinted at with Dave and Tino, so I'm gonna kind of take over and guide
Oh,
the
no.
topic of
No.
conversation at this point. Now,
Here we go.
we don't normally get political on this podcast,
Oh, great.
Oh boy.
but due to everything that I've seen, I think it's important to start by saying there are two types of people in this world. There are those who refuse to accept the truth and will cover their eyes and make themselves blind to it. And there are those who acknowledge the Professor Oak conspiracy theory. Thank you, Steve Shirt.
Okay.
Do we really have to talk about this?
So
Yeah, so we're discussing. I told
We
you
already-
like weeks
hey,
ago.
Will,
We already
Will, hidden
talked about
behind
it,
your,
though.
Yeah. Will,
we
hidden
did, but they
behind,
didn't.
hidden behind your little sensor bar, is there a Pepe Sylvia board?
There might be. I'm not going to tell you. So, here's the whole idea about the conspiracy theory. Obviously, everyone's heard the idea that Professor Oak likes to send children out into the world, not to collect research on Pokemon, but rather because, hey, there's hot single moms in his area. Now, there's different aspects of this theory. For example, like when you get the Pokedex, as soon as it comes near a Pokemon, it tells you all the information about it, which how would it do that if you never encountered this Pokemon before? It should just be a blank screen until you literally fill it in. Other aspects involve the fact that literally almost every time Ash talks to Professor Oak on webcam, his mom's there. So it's like, there's something kind of weird. There's something I found out about 2 months ago that really adds to this theory. Now, remember how when Pokemon was first being brought over to the United States, there were a few banned episodes, like Super Soldier Porygon, because, seizures are a thing, and that had a lot of bright flashing lights. Well, one of the earliest banned episodes of Pokemon is where they all go to this beach resort town, and James has like an inflatable chest in a bikini costume and that kind of stuff. Well, what happens is that in this episode, Professor Oak and Ash's mom show up as part of the Palatown Travel Committee, but the committee's just those two. He literally takes her to a beach resort on a vacation.
Maybe his mom just wanted to see him.
Oh, Ash, I have to go visit Professor Oak now.
But they didn't know that Ash was there. They literally did not know Ash was there. They start by saying, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Like, what a happy coincidence.
No, I'm saying that's the excuse his mom used to use for young Ash whenever she went to go get the professor to check in on her.
Oh, of course,
Oh.
yeah.
Now, see, listen, I'm in agreement with your conspiracy theory that
Oh, yeah,
that's-
no, I'm
this
on board.
This is absolutely a thing, but I think we need to talk about how it got here. So, in Pallet Town, wasn't Ash like next door neighbors with Professor Oak and his lab?
Yeah, there's literally 2 houses and a lab in Palatown, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Pallet
Oh,
Town's
right.
a real desolate small town.
I think there's one dude that just hangs out outside everyone's houses and sleeps in the dirt when night comes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's obvious that the dad of Ash just fucked off and is like, I'm going out for cigarettes and I'm never coming back.
I got a
right?
worse version of that. Have you heard about the Pokemon War theory?
Oh God, where everyone dies in like basically Pokemon World War whatever.
Yeah,
Are you
well,
saying
there's
that,
a lot
like,
of there's a
you're
lot
saying
of
that all the humans were laid to waste and only the Pokemon were left and a couple small
no,
survivors?
no. I'm saying that if you look at some of the text from NPCs in the first Pokemon game, especially from Lieutenant Surge, who talks about how Pokemon saved his life in the war, and the fact that there's not a lot of adult men around and there's a lot of children without parents wandering the world, you can there's a good theory that a recent conflict occurred. A lot of the adult fighting population was dead, and so Professor Oak is comforting a war widow who lives next door.
That's a better story than Ash's dad never coming back from getting cigarettes. So let's go with that.
I mean, in what
I'm down with
regard?
that.
So, wait, it's better it's better that like thousands of adults died than Ash's dad just being a deadbeat. Yeah, okay.
Well, it makes for better lore, I think.
I take the war veteran over the deadbeat. Are you kidding?
So here's the
fair.
thing: we don't know if that backstory extends to the anime, but I like it, so it's reality now. So fuck it.
Headcanon.
Oh boy.
I mean, it sounds legit enough. I would buy that. If someone told me that, like in a bar, I'd be like, that sounds legit.
Professor Oak, he was just doing one for the troops and keeping his wife happy while he was dead.
Oof.
Look, man,
Happy Veterans Day, everybody.
Oh God.
Yeah, we're talking about war and it's Veterans Day.
Oh, that's
great.
What a great start. See, I told you we don't normally get political on this podcast.
No, but we always pick the most inappropriate days to do it.
You know what? We
Yeah.
certainly do.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, thanks for that great story.
And now that
you
we've
said you had an angle on this.
and now that
Listen.
we've lost all two of our viewers,
Listen, it's better this is better than the alternative, which is Ash's dad. I agree with Will. It's better than the alternative that actually no, I agree with Tina. It's better than the alternative where Ash's dad is deadbeat asshole.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, there's something a bit too real about that shit.
Yeah, and I feel like that would make Ash a much worse character overall if that was the
Yeah.
actual backstory. It would be better if his dad died in a war that he never knew about or no one ever told him,
well, how does that make Ash a worse character?
I'm saying that it would make him a worse character because, like, people that like, their dad left, they're, like, longing for that father figure,
Yeah.
And, that kind of messes with their head a little bit, especially as a child. I would feel like he would be a little more, off overall.
There is.
Okay.
So it's interesting you bring that up. It actually flew out of my head. Sorry. When I get it back, I'll bring it up again. But it was something related to that idea. Now I remember it. There's a fan comic someone made called that's from the perspective of Ash, and it's just Ash going on his journey and then writing letters to his non-existent dad.
Well, that's
And it is-
depressing.
It
Yeah.
is super depressing. It is supposed to be super depressing.
I thought you were going to say there was a fan's comic called Sonichu.
No, we do not bring that evil onto this podcast.
We just did.
And now it stops.
Okay.
Because I ain't dealing with
now,
that shit.
For now.
There are some things I'm glad I don't understand.
Oh, there's...
Sa-
yeah.
Save yourself, Tino. Save yourself.
I don't think he can at this point. He's on this podcast. The chances for him being redeemed are long gone.
My chance for being redeemed passed when I saw you guys walk through the door carrying those Nerf guns and I didn't immediately leave.
Exactly.
Yep. We're all on this crazy ride to hell together.
Well, I
All
think
right,
yes.
yes.
I think if anything, you had to stick around to see what was going to happen because that's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
Speaking of
It's
that
like
game of Assassin, was there anything funnier than the story about Greg doing the Bagel Dance as he was about to be assassinated?
What the hell's the Bagel Dance?
So, all right. So what happened was, you know how the game room was like a safe haven, and like once you left the game room, you had like a 5-minute like safety barrier to get to your class or whatever. So Greg had gone out to get bagels and coffee, and he was gone for about 10 minutes. So I forget who went outside to ambush him. It might have been David Hornstein, I want to say.
Most
Maybe.
likely, yeah.
Yeah, so
Maybe.
I think it was Dave. And what happened was he came up to Greg and said, "Hey, Greg," and was holding his Nerf gun out like that. And Greg had coffee in one hand and a bag of bagels in the other, and his Nerf gun at his hip. And he literally saw like Hornstein pull the Nerf gun and just started like he didn't know what to drop. And as he was doing that, he got shot and dropped his coffee and bagel all over the ground. And meanwhile,
great.
there's like some of us who are in the game room. Like, the window gives us a clear view, and we're laughing hysterically as Greg's dropping stuff all over.
I can imagine.
Man,
I can
coffee
imagine.
and bagels didn't deserve that.
I can imagine Hornstein just like opening up his jacket and just pulling out this revolver,
Yep.
and he's like, "No!"
Oh, the best part was when he left the game room, like right before he did, he had like that Nerf revolver that you actually have to like cock back, and right as he's leaving the game room, he's like, "All right, Greg will be back in a minute or two. I'm doing this," and he just walks out. So
He was probably just hanging out like right by the entrance, but like behind a pillar.
Yeah,
So he's
that's
just
exactly
looking
what he
around every now
did.
and then. He's just like, "Eh."
like, I got you now.
Got him.
Literally walking like nothing personal kid without the teleporting behind him.
Yeah.
I'm amazed you guys didn't get the police called on you.
Well, I mean, these are
they were
brightly
Nerf
colored
guns.
Nerf guns. It's like orange and yellow things that shoot.
Well,
little
it was
darts.
also 2008. Now that I think about it, you do
Yeah,
that
like-
now. A SWAT team comes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I had the revolver one too. I had the Maverick. They don't sell that anymore, by the way. It's really sad.
Yeah.
I have two of them, so I'm happy I got them when I did.
Yeah, I still have the one, but I have like another one that like they replaced it with, but it's not as good.
Well, I'm a dumb edgy boy, so I disabused myself of all my Nerf armaments to pick up foam swords.
Well, now I have a real revolver. So
Whoa. I don't think you should be using that in a game
not
of
using
Assassin.
not using that in the game of
This
Assassin.
just escalated in a comfortable way.
Oh.
Well, now we've got video evidence that can be subpoenaed. So
Oh, great.
You know.
Fantastic.
I mean-
That's literally you admitting it on camera, Steve.
And I vouch for you too.
Oh, the best part is that this is also Will can't represent you now because this is qualifying for him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that's okay.
So actually,
but that
this
means
is
I
quite
get out of having to report on it. So
true.
even
You
though I'm
get-
not actually a reporter, but
And whatever the civil lawsuit is, I will help collect on it. There we go.
Well, you know
okay,
what?
so we're all involved one way or another.
It's
Yeah.
a circle of life.
And it ends with the payout.
So, oh man. All right, so I'm happy that we managed to circle back
So-
around to that game of Assassins.
So here's my question to you, Will, about the Professor Oak conspiracy theory.
Yes.
What the
yes.
hell makes it a conspiracy? It's literally just, Professor Oak is plugging Ash's mom.
Well, we don't know
Because-
that for sure. I mean, it's so ambiguous. That's why it's a theory.
See, people like Steve, he is the first kind of person who does not buy into the theory.
I told you that I bought into the theory, but
Nope, not anymore.
I'm playing devil's advocate though.
Yeah. So this adds an interesting dimension of darkness considering where the anime went. Because eventually, per the Pokemon games, Ash and his mom moved to the Hawaii-inspired region of Alola, where Professor Oak's cousin, Samuel Oak, who's just a version of Professor Oak with a tan and a mullet, I shit you not, is there, and Ash and the antics with Ash's mom are starting up again.
Wait, they moved there?
Yes.
What
For
was
the,
the
uh,
vacation.
No, because Ash was going to school there. Like, the entire reason the Sun and Moon anime was so highly regarded was like, oh, Ash is doing something else other than just wandering around. He's now in a school with all the other in
Oh,
the game.
this is like way like past the original anime though.
Didn't he
Yeah,
try
no.
going to school in the original anime and like he failed out or something?
No, they in their wandering around, they found a school, and they did the RPG bullshit you do at a school that you stop for one side quest at.
Yeah, but I mean that was basically what the entire original series was. It was just side quest after side quest after side quest after
Side quest, yeah.
You know. And like didn't even not even get all the badges in the original anime. He's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go
Yeah, no.
beat up Gary.
I think
And
he,
it's fine.
he did, but it was like he got like the last badge from Team Rocket.
Yeah, and also somehow Gary Oak got more badges than there were gyms in the Kanto region.
Yeah, he got 10
Oh,
badges.
yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess he got
10.
one from the fighting gym that was right next to Sabrina's. And then
You
and
mean
then
the what? But yeah, how about we talk about that shit? How about we talk about the fact that there was a fucking Akira level psychic bitch living in a fucking city that could have demolished the world at any goddamn time? But no, she's spending her time running a Pokemon gym even though she has fucking major psych issues.
Because the health benefits you get from being a gym leader are hard to beat, Dave. You know, they really offer a generous package when you sign on. I'm sure the salary for being a high up there gym leader, like Brock and Misty, they're not making anything, but Sabrina's probably hauling in 6 figures a year.
So that inspires an image of Sabrina, creepy bitch that she is, holding her stupid living ass doll, sitting in an HR office, filling out the necessary forms to get the health benefits. Using her mind to move the pen.
Yes.
Listen. That gym is $1 down, $10 a month. It's hard to beat. I'm serious, man.
Oh.
The ending of Akira would have been extremely different if Tokyo had actually had a gym.
You know,
Damn.
That's
why Akira is the dystopian future, because there weren't any gyms in Neo Tokyo.
Yeah.
But how did they all have abs?
I really. That movie makes me angry for a number of reasons.
That movie should make you angry.
Sure.
It makes me angry because it takes place in the middle of the manga, so you had to have read some of it in order to know what the hell is even happening. It's not a contained story, not enough where it's satisfying as a plot line. And
Are we talking about Akira right now?
Yeah, we're talking about Akira.
And I actually know what Steve's talking about, and I'll chime in after he's done.
And I don't find any of the characters believable in terms of what their goals are. And I don't know. I mean, it was groundbreaking at the time. Sure, I can admit that. But I'm saying that, I don't know. There's better movies to watch.
Yeah. Akira is groundbreaking as a movie for its animation techniques and for its display, and for the fact that it was the first major anime film to really make it to the West. But there is a great story in Akira. It's just in the comic book, because it is a comic book-ass comic book. The movie adapts like the middle portion of the manga, and some of the best shit in that manga occurs after Neo Tokyo is destroyed.
Yeah, right.
Because there's this whole post-apocalyptic gang war shit.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they thought that it would be a good movie to just do it in the middle. Why couldn't they just start it from the beginning and do like a multi-part thing, or just like do one, and if it sucks and it doesn't sell, then whatever, they'll just make it a cohesive ending.
Hilariously, you'd have to ask Katsuhiro Otomo himself, because he directed that fucking movie after writing that goddamn comic.
Or we could call up George Lucas and ask him for the same insight on the Star Wars prequels.
Ooh,
I don't know. After the Disney sequels, my opinion towards the prequels has softened quite considerably.
I'll say this: as a child, I somewhat enjoyed the Star Wars prequels. As I got older, I started to hate them, and I actually ended up rewatching The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones this past weekend, and I will say, wow, The Phantom Menace is much worse than I remember it being, because literally like every 15 seconds it cuts to a new scene, so it feels like whoever edited the movie, like literally it's like watching a cat chase a laser pointer.
Oh yeah, that movie is ADHD as hell. It's crazy.
But then
when did
like,
Lucas's editor pass away?
What's up?
Lucas had an editor. I swore that was his wife or something.
But I don't know about that. I just know that
I could be wrong. By the way,
I'm not.
By the way, audience, I could be very wrong about this. I could be talking right out of my ass,
as he often is. But
yes.
But that's
I ain't denying it.
But then the weird thing is that like you get through most of the Phantom Menace, and you get to like the last half hour where it's like the big battle going on, and all of a sudden, like when it cuts from scene to scene, it doesn't seem as like frantic. Like, it actually feels a lot more cohesive. It actually feels like a Star Wars movie again. Then you get to Attack of the Clones, and this movie has jumped up on my favorite list because Obi-Wan has a line in there where he says you can't trust any politicians, and I absolutely agree with him.
So I have a
So-
recommendation for you, Will. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tino.
So the Phantom Menace had 2 editors. It was Paul Martin Smith, who I think was started the process, and then Ben Burt, who was also the main sound designer. So so it had 2 different editors. That might be why there were 2 different styles of editing in the Phantom Menace. And I don't know what the explanation is for them having 2 different editors, but that could be why.
All right.
I guess that makes sense.
So I have a recommendation for you, Will. If you want more of that kind of Star Wars, you need to check out the Clone Wars cartoon.
I did.
Oh,
Are
good.
we talking 2D or 3D?
Both.
The 2D was good. 3D
2D was
was
really
hit or miss.
3D took a while to get warmed up, but then when it got warmed up, it was actually good.
I watched.
It did have one of the most haunting endings I've ever seen in an animated show, I will say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the 2D one, and that was really solid. Like, I
Oh,
loved
because
how
the 2D one was just Samurai Jack with lightsabers.
Yeah, and I loved how they introduced Grievous in that as well. Like, he was really menacing, and then just became a big disappointment in Revenge of the Sith.
I give them credit for at least explaining that in the cartoon, in the 2D one.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene where one of the Jedis who survived that attack grips his fucking heart with the Force and crushes it. I will say this, I'm hit or miss on the Disney movies. Some of them are dog shit, some of them have great ideas, but the best piece of Star Wars media that ever existed of all goddamn time is the Fantasy Flight tabletop RPG. I am not taking questions at this time.
Are you talking about?
Okay, because I was going to ask, what is that? But all right.
Are you talking about the one with the weird dice that have that has like things on it? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I think this is the D20 one.
Okay, because there is another Star Wars one that has like, I don't even know how to explain it. There's like sides on the die where it's like hit, and sometimes it's like miss, and
Yeah, it's Dungeon Dice Monsters in Star Wars.
yeah, it's
no.
like that. It's like that.
Yeah. But no, this was a full tabletop RPG Star Wars, like pick a race,
no.
pick a class, etc.
Yeah,
It's actually part of what they derived KOTOR from. So
Okay.
and it is in part a Dungeons and Dragons like 3rd edition read.
Okay.
So it's
and
like
it's-
Lucasfilm and Wizards of the Coast proudly present.
Well,
that
in
kind
this
of thing?
case, not even, because it's Fantasy Flight is the name of the company that did it, and they lost that license. I don't know who has the tabletop RPG Star Wars license now. It could be Hasbro, which is who owns Wizards of the Coast. But
Okay.
it was a good piece of Star Wars media because it let you create a D&D party in the Star Wars universe.
I kind of wish Star Wars Galaxies was still around. That had a freedom that you don't really see in games anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted to just be a dancer, just dances outside of bars, you can just do that. And, like, you can kind of make money doing it. It's, like, weird.
Was that an MMO or a tabletop?
Yeah.
It was an MMO. The problem with Star Wars Galaxies was it felt like a beta the entire time it was out. it really did.
Oh.
There were bugs all over the place. You could definitely break that game pretty easily. There was a time when only one person could be a Jedi, and it was like randomly picked per server.
Yeah.
And then they realized that was a terrible idea, so then everyone could be Jedi, but then like everybody was Jedi, so it just ended up becoming a Jedi MMO.
Yeah, it became a SWOT tour.
Yeah, so I think
So-
they were like, all right, I think we've gone far enough, and they just like canceled that shit.
So SWOT tour is a lot of what, in my opinion, was wasted potential for Star Wars, because you watch the cutscenes of that MMO, and you're watching what I can only describe as mid 2000s to early aughts Final Fantasy cutscenes, but in Star Wars. And you're like, holy shit, this is cool. It's just like my Japanese animes, but it's this mind blowing. Holy shit, that looks awesome. And then the game's story is the dumbest shit in the world, because it shits in part all over what was established in KOTOR 1 and 2. So yeah, but
it suffered sequel syndrome.
So here's the thing: you think that the Disney sequels are bad? You haven't seen shit. That's all I'm saying, and I'm not going to even get into it.
You mean
For those of you who know what I'm talking about, the Revan plotline.
Do you mean something worse than why am I blanking on this now? Do you mean something worse than hey, all of our Star Destroyers have Death Star lasers and they're all linked together, so if one blows up, they all blow up.
So, admittedly, that's bad, but Will, you gotta understand, this is worse than that it destroys a character built up for nearly half a decade.
I mean, The Last Jedi did the exact same thing. And he had been built up for multiple decades.
Well, here's the thing. You and I have a disagreement on that, but that's not a fight we're having on this podcast right now. Because that will literally be the rest of the podcast. And I think we have other things to discuss. But no, this is worse in that because I'm trying hard to avoid... Because there's a spoiler I can't discuss about it. For anyone
Looks
who
like
hasn't played...
Sephiroth is behind Steve.
Nah, that's Sid.
Oh, that's Sid?
He's probably... I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's probably eating something.
Like,
I don't know.
I want to discuss what's up with this character, but to do that, I would have to spoil one of the KOTOR games.
Right, I only ever played KOTOR 1, so...
Oh, then did you play it to the end?
Yeah.
They ruin your player character.
All right,
yeah, I guessed, since you said something about the Revan plotline. And we just lost Steve.
Yep.
Cat interference.
Because there's some K-pop person where Steve used to be.
I think that's an
I'll be
upgrade.
back. I just had to stop my cat. I'll be back in a moment.
Sure thing. Is this
All
messing
right.
up your recording, dude?
What?
Is this messing up your recording?
I mean, whoever his avatar is now in the recording. I can probably...
You're gonna have to blank that out for copyright reasons.
We could just, we could just instead of like you could edit this, Tino, because we took a picture on our last New York trip where instead of his like K-pop avatar that's right there, we could just like put up the picture where I took those stamps and I spelled out "Will is here, Steve is a loser."
I'm back now.
It's good to be in 3rd grade again.
Yeah.
You know,
Everything goes back to Pokemon.
So I forgot that I still had a bowl of like food that I have already eaten. So he was licking the bowl, and I'm like, it's probably not a good idea for him to eat that. So I had to put it away.
He should probably not be eating Wingstop like you do.
No. Listen, I don't. Will
Steve
you and Steve tell me? You and Steve tell me. You guys both own cats. Do they eat random shit they shouldn't eat?
Yes.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. Literally.
Great.
Cats are weird. Like they do a lot of crazy stuff. Like the other day, I had just gotten out of the shower, and I was like toweling off and getting dressed, and I sat down just for a minute to put my shoes on, and my one cat, Lion, just like walked into my room, and he waited until I looked over at him, and then I looked over at him, and he looked at me, and he just went meow, and then he ran out of the room. I'm like, thank you for that important message, little cat. Like I don't know what you're trying to tell me. But you apparently needed to get my attention and let me know.
So my cats will
come down the stairs behind you right now.
Yeah, well that, and they'll eat like Flora works on cosplay stuff, and there's like there's like pieces of string that's like on the floor just from like her sewing and then cutting it off. They just eat that.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they do.
Not a cat story, but my brother.
Come here, buddy.
My brother had left his dog with my parents while he was working on some computer stuff for them.
We just tripled our viewership.
Yep.
and it's gone.
Yep.
So I was walking my brother's dog, and Godot, as her name is, developed an interesting new habit where she started eating leaves. Just straight up wanted more roughage in her diet, apparently.
Well, fiber's important.
Fiber is important.
And it's just like so the thing is, Godot's a rescue, and she used to be overweight, so they've had her on this diet food. They've had her exercising constantly. She's gone from being an overweight dog to being a very muscular, very large Labrador retriever.
Aww.
Who is very, very strong.
So, Dave, quick question. When Godot was eating these leaves, when did you realize that they were poison oak?
Around the time that Ash's mom came.
Uh,
Oh.
serious question
Bro.
though. How long has Godot been eating leaves?
I just observed this this weekend.
Okay, because usually, like if a dog is eating grass and leaves, that's usually a sign that they're kind of sick. So
of an upset stomach, and we brought it to their attention, and
okay,
hopefully, and whatever it is, they'll address it. Godot is healthy for the most part, but I think she's just hungry all the time because she is a dog, and dogs will eat anything and everything. That's why you have to keep the chocolate up on a separate counter they can't reach.
Yeah,
what did we learn during this podcast? Animals eat things.
Yeah, I mean, cats eat literally everything too.
Yeah,
they don't know any better. So
I mean,
you know.
Tiger will literally, if I leave the dishwasher open where like all the silverware is, she'll go up and she'll find silverware that still has like bits of food on it, and she'll lick it. Like, oh yeah, this is second snack time for me now.
I'm curious because, like I said, I haven't owned a cat. What is the worst possible thing they
Poison.
Diamonds.
Milk, in large quantities, I should say.
Yeah.
It's not good
I was
for
gonna
them.
say diamonds, but what do I know?
Well, diamonds are probably pretty high on the list too. Although
literally,
unlikely.
there's like a lot that like generally just try to keep them eating like cat food for the most part. I think you could give them scrambled eggs as long as they're not seasoned.
Yeah, they can handle most things. There's a pretty a pretty small list of what they can't eat. So I just don't want to introduce like weird human food to them. I'd rather them just eat the cat food. Like we get specific cat food for them has the natural ingredients and shit like that. So, you know, just to make sure that their diet is consistent and nutritious.
There was a time where Panther, anytime that I would try to enjoy a beer, she would want to sniff the beer to see if she would like it. And every time she would sniff the beer, she would just have a face of, oh wait, no, this is yucky.
Yeah, what makes me laugh though is whenever we run out of like the nutritious cat food, we forget to order it or whatever, we still have like the shitty kind, like the Meow Mix or whatever. And I call that the McDonald's of the cat food because whenever we like put it in their bowl, they just go nuts. They love it, and they burn through it too. And I'm like, they're just eating Big Macs and nugs all day.
Listen, we've all had that time. We all had that moment in our lives where it's just where you're just so fucking hungry you don't care. You just want something cheap and fast and that will go down smooth. And it's funny. It's like sometimes you don't want a fancy steak. You want a naked chicken chalupa and a Beppis.
Yeah.
You speak about that in the past tense like it no longer applies.
No, it always applies. It's just that in the age of pandemic, I've learned that I have to make most of the stuff myself.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
and I've become kind of good at it, so I'm proud of myself. So
oh, that's good.
I've been spoiled by the fact that there's a Wawa less than a mile down the street from my house now, so...
Ooh.
It's a good thing I'm not trying to diet because I wouldn't be able to.
Wawa, I've fallen off of Wawa because I remember like maybe 10 years ago they used to have that prime rib sandwich.
Oh, I remember that.
And that was like crack. And they got rid of it for some reason, but they kept their terrible meatball subs. They're still going strong somehow. You know what? That's a question I have. Why is it that like a fast food place, whichever one you go to, they get rid of their really good item? Like I remember like years ago, Wendy's did like a jalapeno burger on a pretzel bun. Sid's walking behind Steve again. Taco Bell did the volcano burrito. Wawa
so
did the rib sub.
I have an answer for you actually.
Yes.
Because I used to work in retail real estate, and these trends were discussed. They do it to encourage you to come back in the hopes that it'll be there. It's the McRib strategy.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. They got rid of the spicy nuggets at McDonald's. They had it for like 12 minutes, and then it was gone. And I'm like, well, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
It's all to get you back in the hopes that, and when you're disappointed it's not there, you're like, I'll try something else on the menu and hopefully you get hooked on that.
It's kind of like the mid 2000s when Disney had their Disney Vault thing, where they would be like, "Hey, we're putting this this film away, and you're not going to be able to buy it anywhere for a couple years."
Yeah, I feel like that strategy that Dave talked about doesn't really work for the internet age. Like for me, I would just go and look online.
Mid 2000s. So.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm saying that right now, that current model I don't think would work, especially for people like me.
It's funny you bring up the internet because that is actually impacting this. Because you know what people do? Because they're psychos. They get this sandwich, they deconstruct it, they find out exactly what the ingredients are, and then they put up recipes for better versions of the same thing on the internet.
Yeah,
God
but that's
Reddit.
Yeah, but that's,
I don't know if I trust. Let me
too
look
much
that
work,
up.
though. That's too much
Well,
work, though. Do you
heck,
really want to put together a sandwich like that?
Steve, because Quiznos is all but dead, I did that for the chicken carbonara.
Well, that makes sense because Quiznos is dead, but McDonald's is everywhere. You know.
Correction, all but dead. The last Quiznos I know of is actually on the way back whenever I come to visit Philly.
Oh, and they have them at airports every now and then too.
I think that might be the only place they're surviving.
Yeah.
Yep. And those I think are franchised, so I think they're sourcing their shit from other sources now.
Yeah, probably.
And literally all they have is the name. But that is unfortunately the brutal world of the fast food supply industry. Will, what have you found in your searches? It's not as. Did you?
I feel like I've stumbled down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories about fast food items. And
So,
this is not the rabbit hole I want to go down right now.
So my suggestion to you is think of a fast food sandwich you miss.
The Wawa
And-
prime rib sub.
Plug that into a search engine.
That's
and
what I
see if you
just
can't find
did. It's all conspiracy.
Dude, it's
So-
a prime rib sub. You could make it yourself. Buy prime rib, slice it thin, put it on a sandwich.
No, but they
No.
have prime rib chunks.
Yeah,
What do
you
you
have
mean
to chop it up into
chunks?
chunks.
So
and then you have
slice
to-
them not so thin.
Yeah.
You know, I remember
It's
like
too much
cube
work.
it.
You
have
don't
to
even
cube-
cook.
Yeah, no, dude. You have to cube it. You have to tenderize it.
I am a
cube it,
master of
and then
microwaving,
slow
I'll have
cook
you
it.
know. In fact, I came down today and I said, you know what? I need me some steakums. 2 steakums, please. And then I went and microwaved me some steakums.
So this is turning into a podcast about conspiracies and food.
Yes.
Well, you know, back in the game room days, we kind of did talk about 2 of those things.
Yeah.
Those 2
True.
things, you know.
Listen, hey,
Like a
dude,
lot.
the McRib is back. I don't know for how long. I don't like the McRib, so you guys have at it. I like
no,
what
I'll
I
join you
don't
on
care
missing
about it.
that fad.
I like that Wendy's brought back the pretzel pub chicken sandwich, though. That shit's gold.
That was, yeah, I had one
The
not that long ago. It was actually very
The,
good.
the pretzel bun is
Yeah.
good. I like it. And they have the classic chicken sandwich now, which I haven't tried yet.
You know what was a really good thing that I miss and I haven't had in years? There's a dive bar in my neighborhood, and I used to go there with Evan and a few other people. And not too far away from there was a place called With or Without. It was like just a generic cheesesteak chain in Philly. But they were right near a Philly pretzel factory. So they would, on occasion, have like a cheesesteak, but on like a pretzel roll.
Ooh.
So we'd get to the bar, and I would beeline it there to get a pretzel bun cheesesteak. And then I remember there was one day where I got there, and they didn't have it. And this bar's like 3-4 miles at least away from where we lived. And I'm like, no. And I walked home. I didn't tell anyone where I was going.
Damn.
No,
I was so
refuse.
mad.
Wait, you're telling me you walked the whole way there to get this cheesesteak?
No, we drove there, because we drove to this dive bar, and you walk.
Oh,
like
and
maybe-
from there you would walk to the
Yes.
to the place. Okay.
Yeah, so from the dive bar, you'd walk like maybe a quarter of a block to the cheesesteak place, and the day that they didn't have it, I just walked the 4 miles home, and then I had to like from my house phone call Evan's cell phone and be like, oh yeah, I left my jacket and wallet and cell phone at the bar. Can you bring it home when you come back?
Your disappointment. I want to emphasize the depth of Will's disappointment here. That you left all of your important documents in a place of vulnerability because you had gone to a place of emotional vulnerability as you could not find your fucking pretzel cheesesteak.
Yes.
So
I was
now
upset. And 22 years old, I wasn't making good decisions.
Are you making
I,
them
I'd
now?
argue,
No,
I'd
I'm
argue
not.
you're not making good ones now.
Yeah, 9 years later, I haven't improved. What does that tell you?
None of us grew up.
That's why we're trying to recapture the game room.
Indeed. To that end, Will, my suggestion for you is you're gonna hate this. You got to learn how to bake, man, because making pretzels ain't that difficult.
I've made pretzels before.
But have you made them submarine sized? But
No. I want to get a little better at making my own pretzels before I try for that. Just
Fair enough.
because I can't even make my own bread that size. So before I go to pretzel.
I mean, that sounds like something sacred. You want to make sure you're getting it right before you start.
Yes.
yeah. Oh, of course. Before you make pretzels, you have to learn how. Also, when you make pretzels, you have to learn how to make the beer.
I feel like what I want to do is I want to actually just call like a Philly pretzel factory or something and like see if I could custom order a roll as I'm cooking my own cheesesteak, and then just like someone who's like delivering a heart for a transplant surgery, just go and pick it up in like this heated box and just bring it into my house so the bun stays nice and hot so I can put the cheesesteak right on it.
Yeah, let me go call Dan Aykroyd. We'll see about that.
Ah, man. Like I said, the worst I ever did was I learned how to make the Quiznos carbonara sandwich with fresh ingredients. Like I got a wheat roll because I preferred getting it on wheat. I got fresh mozzarella that I sliced up.
Mozzarella.
I got the chicken and I made my own. The Quiznos version of the carbonara sauce is not carbonara sauce. It's fucking Alfredo. They dump bacon bits in. That's what I did. I got pre-made Alfredo and I dumped bacon bits in it. And it's actually a delicious sauce.
Well, that's pretty
But
good.
And it came out and it tasted just like the thing. And I sat an entire, because I used to like drive out to Quiznos every Saturday when I was living back in my folks' house because I was fat, unemployed, and miserable. So, I mean, I'm still fat, but now I'm employed and not miserable. So hey,
Yeah, you know.
And life's getting better.
Yeah, 2 out of 3.
yep.
Although
I'm not
I will
as
say
fat as
this. I will say this.
I'm not as fat as I used to be, though.
So here's the thing. Dave's nickname has always been Big Dave because he was always a large dude.
And there's also been multiple Daves in our circle of friends. So
Like,
we
So
had
it's
to
the
like
easiest way to identify. So
differentiate
here's the
one Dave
thing.
from the next.
Yeah, I'm not as big as I used to be, but I'm still fucking tall.
No.
So it
Here's
still
the thing.
applies.
Dave, I'm gonna amend your statement. You are still as big as you used to be, but it's been reproportioned because Dave's been working out like with a personal trainer and everything. 5 years ago, I remember I was done my first year of law school, and Dave told me to like come to this bar because he was competing in an arm wrestling thing, and I saw him compete. And I remember when I went to go give him like the big hug, where it's like we go all in. It's like like when you see like a mob movie and the guys just like hug each other like that. And I went to like hug Dave's back.
It's the
And-
bromance hug.
It felt like literally, it felt like I was hugging like his back was a slab of concrete. His muscle was that solid. And I saw him competing, and it was crazy just how like these are huge dudes that would have snapped my twiggy arms in half. And Dave is just going toe to toe with them. Like without
That ain't a
care
great
in the world.
memory.
What's up?
So there's a reason I don't compete anymore. Did I tell you what happened?
No, you didn't. What happened there?
I know it used to be a thing, and I know it's not anymore, but everything else is
Let's
just
put it
kind
this way. Every single competition I went to, and I mean every single competition, someone broke their arm. And it was the nasty break that occurred in the upper shoulder.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I was
no,
just sitting
man.
there, and I was like, one day it's going to be me. One day it's going to be fucking me. And I still do the arm wrestling training, but I don't compete anymore. Because
No, that's smart. I mean,
If you don't want to worry about breaking your arm, just compete against me. I'm the one who's going to get their arm broken.
yeah, really.
so
I mean,
funny. So it's funny you bring that up. Tino, you know our mutual friend Elisa.
Yes.
She posted a picture of herself on Twitter of her arm wrestling her friend, sitting down, gripping the sides of the table, and I'm just sitting there, like, that's a great picture. Never do that again. That's how you break your arm. And just it's a fun picture of her and her friend, but woo, all the memories,
Oh, that
all the
technique is
bad
terrible.
memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember at Dan's wedding, I was fucking toasted and I was arm wrestling everybody.
That was great.
You know, from all the pictures I was taking, somehow I missed that bit.
Oh, I think that was after we were all well and goodly toasted, and, and we
I,
were in the outside area.
I think Dave was arm wrestling people, and at one point while wearing a kilt, I was performing capoeira on the dance floor. Because boy, was the beer a flowing that night.
Oh, wait,
And that's when we got the idea to start up the New York trips again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? Maybe we should provide some context for that. So, in the anime club, the Temple University Anime Club, as has been said before, there used to be, they would take a trip to New York City once every semester, and the idea is that we would basically go to a bunch of weeb stores. We would go to places like Book Off, Kinokuniya, Ramen, and Karaoke.
When they were open, and we took into account the store hours, Steve.
Yeah.
Listen, man. I know that stores have hours now.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I've learned.
That's a joke we haven't let him live down since 2009 because we went to Muji, which is basically the Japanese Bed Bath & Beyond, and it was closed. So, anyway, long story short, we really enjoyed those trips. I ended up making a video each time just because it was a fun thing to do. And we'd all been graduated a couple years. We were at Dan's wedding, a mutual friend of all of us, and we all just kind of looked at each other and be like, hey, we need to hang out more often because, life is kind of boring if we're just doing adult things. Let's go back to New York. And so we just started doing it again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so it became the public transit nightmare that we all love and enjoy.
Well, it ends up being fine. We take the train down there. We walk everywhere. It's not really a big deal.
It's still fine, but it's fine for you guys. As a guy who lives in northern New Jersey, I'm blowing myself up here and a lot closer to the city. I have public transit literally 20 feet from my apartment that I would take to go into New York. It's still an hour and 10-minute train ride.
I don't know how that's possible.
Because it stops at every stop on the way because it's the weekend line.
Oh, you do the local thing?
It's not
you don't get a choice.
Yeah, it's not an express or a metro area to metro area like the Amtrak you guys take, because I live further away from Philadelphia. I'm actually closer to Dave than I am to Will and Steve. So I'll usually go to his place, spend the night, and then we'll take the train in, and it's a bit more like being on like a SEPTA train in Philadelphia. You're stopping at every stop before you get to Penn Station in New York City.
I see.
What's frustrating is that the few times I've commuted into the city, there are expresses. They just happen during the weekday.
Would it be easier if you just drove to a location that had the express, or no?
So what would actually be easier than all of that, and this is the part that scares the living nightmare out of me, and what I'd probably do if and when we revive the trip, I will drive into the city and just find parking. I would rather spend the $40 or so that it would cost me to park my car in the city than the $60 it takes to do a round trip from Morristown.
If driving in the city scares you, I'll do it. I've done it multiple times.
No.
I haven't lost my mind yet.
So what scares me is that it doesn't scare me.
I feel like we'll eventually revive this trip. I mean, Pfizer just announced that they have a vaccine that's 90% effective. So
don't announce it on here, and so it becomes an artifact of the false hope. We hope.
Yeah,
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
We don't know when that's going to be ready.
There's a whole lot of unknown variables at the time, and I've had access to several interviews with actual virologists because of the nature of my job, and basically, in a good year, like take your average flu vaccine, that's usually only about 50% effective at best. So so this is something where a vaccine will it'll do a good amount, but it won't wipe it out. It's not like an off switch for this thing.
Right.
Sure.
It's not polio yet, and also from what I've read, there's some distribution issues that come up. Like I said, there's hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're still a few miles from that light.
Well, I mean, hopefully we'll get there soon enough. I mean, just to piggyback on that and the New York trip a bit, it's kind of funny because when we went on our last trip, which was literally at the beginning of March of this year.
It was 1 week before Governor Cuomo declared a state of emergency in New York.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were walking around the streets of New York, which are normally like jam-packed with people, and God, you could see, like, normally if you just look down the street, you could see far off into the distance. You could see the same thing just looking down the sidewalk, because there was no one outside. Like, New York looked like a ghost town. I think it had about the same amount of activity as you might see in, like, Frisco, Texas.
Yeah, I remember taking the train home and it was pretty empty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't notice anything strange, oddly enough. But then again, maybe that's just because there have been a couple times that I've been to New York City at weird hours where like almost nobody was about. But once again, that's like kind of one of the quirks that comes with having the job that I have. So
yeah, it's freaky just how like we got in there like right before that happened, and now I think like 2 or 3 of the stores we used to go to are just permanently shut down.
yeah,
Like they couldn't survive.
that's the
Image
Yeah,
anime is gone.
yeah. Well, it's got an online presence, but it doesn't have a physical location anymore. There's 3 elements that are kind of contributing to what's happening to New York. There's the coronavirus, making it so that you can't do business. There's the crime rate that's skyrocketing, and then those 2 things combined are kind of leading to this sort of economic, I don't want to say implosion because that wouldn't be correct, but an economic
Contraction.
decline, which is leading all these businesses to sort of leave. So there's a part of me that wonders, okay, how much longer is this New York trip going to last? Because is any of the things that we like to do still going to be there?
I think what we'll end up doing eventually is like we'll go to New York and we'll go to like, let's say like where Image Anime used to be, and instead of going into the store, we'll just all take out our phones and go to the online store and buy what we want to have sent to our homes, and then we'll just go to a bar, and then we'll go to karaoke. That's how it'll work from now on.
I will tell you this
boy.
as a guy.
I mean,
who
that's
lives
one
in the area.
strategy.
I'll tell you this as a guy who lives in the area. Stuff's gonna come back. New York has ironically bounced back from worse than this, which is weird to
New
say.
York is a surprisingly resilient city with all things considered. Because didn't like the day of or the day after like September 11th, like a lot of businesses reopened and people went back to work to show that they were gonna stand
that's
firm.
gonna be
Sure.
so that'll be a part of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like New York will recover from this, and we'll be able to do our trips there again.
And hopefully there's some enterprising nerds like us out there who will be like, man, you know what I miss? I miss a nerd store that had a storefront.
Yeah.
And they will go down the retail hellhole that we all know and love, and we'll have a place to visit.
Maybe they could advertise by making a video and putting it on YouTube and starring Jenny.
Oh my god. Oh my fucking god.
boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I blame you for this.
Poor Jenny.
That's like a 12 or 11-year-old video at this point.
That's 10 years old at this point.
Yeah.
I remember Steve and I were in the game room, and we discovered Image Anime by watching that video.
Dude,
And
that video-
boy, did we
Hold the
choose
fuck
Etsu
up.
real quick.
Dude, that video
Because
was
we're
in
going down a
240p.
hole.
So low quality.
We're going down a hole of Haruhi. And that should be the topic of our next episode.
Perhaps we should, perhaps we should explain exactly what we're referencing when we're
Well,
talking
you know what?
about this video.
I say what we should do is, because I don't want to be on for too long, I think what we should do is we should have an episode at some point where we each just rewatch the trip videos as I do daily, and we each take a fun story that we remember from each trip that we were on, just to kind of like reminisce and give people an idea of what we were doing.
Sure.
If we do that, we're going to have to do so with audio muted, because otherwise we're going to get copyright strikes on whatever.
No, I'm
platform
not
we're
saying
on.
we should.
Oh, not live. It's we all
not-
watch them, and then the podcast
Yeah.
is us discussing them.
The podcast is us discussing, and then maybe we could have one clip that proves we were in a Russian music video.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Are we talking
that
about the
day.
one we were in or the one we made?
No, the one we were in, where we just bumped into the crew, and it's like, all right, this is happening now.
Clearly,
think
there
we can
are a
do- we
lot
can
of
do that.
stories left to tell.
You know what? How great
Indeed.
would it be if this podcast took off and we had fans in Russia. It's like, oh, we know that music video. We recognize you guys. How
I'm starting
great would
to
that
think-
be?
I'm starting
We would
to think
only
that
be so
music
lucky.
video was never posted anywhere because I contacted every Russian-speaking person I could find, and they were like, "I've never heard of this."
I spent, like, after that trip, I spent the remainder of the time I was in college searching for that thing and never found it.
They may have not used the shot involving us.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that
Oh,
would
well.
be sad.
So I think on that note, we should wrap this episode up. I think this is a good pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
It
good.
has wings.
Yeah.
Oh, may they not be made of wax.
Well, I mean, look.
That's
we
very
will find
bad
out-
aerodynamic wing design. So
I mean, we will find out eventually, but
Okay, take it up with Daedalus.
Look, all I'm going to tell to you is that I know who that was. I wasn't born yesterday, you know? I've seen movies.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yep.
Are you sure?
Let's,
Sure?
Yeah.
let's
yeah.
So
just
you're all
say who we...
sure? Wait, you're all sure it's time to wrap it up? And don't lie to me or I'll know.
Yes, but here's the thing. I think we should all sign off.
Yeah.
Good night,
yeah.
everybody. So once again, my name's Dave. Good night, everybody.
Once again, my name is Will, and I will hold them all hostage again for the next episode.
once again, my name is Tino, and good night, or evening, or morning, or midday, whatever the case.
This has been Steve. Take care, everybody. Be safe.
Peace out, y'all.
All right, later.